We are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services around the world. If you could listen and download, or if you're already listening, but if you download the show or you just stream it, if you're able to leave a review, that's super, super helpful. If you can throw some words in there, comments in there to help other people read and see what's going on and see if they want to listen to us. We're getting, we're couple months away from like 150 episodes. I mean, we're a lot of months away from 150 episodes, but we're almost to that 125 mark. So we're definitely in the game for a while, and we're going to be here to stay consistently. So hopefully we get some more ears or eyes on the show. Speaking of eyes, you can watch us on twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming. Typically every Tuesday night, but we had some personal issues going on this week, and we also wanted to delay because there was rumors of bunks that the system that PlayStation was going to talk some stuff this week, and they did. So that's what we were waiting primarily for, as well as, like I said, some important dates for the Digital Days family that are more important than recording on a regular day. So. But with that, all of the community, for you to get involved in the community or to follow us on socials, is all linked in the show notes. Teesprings is there as well. If you want a t-shirt, PayPal's there, Patreon's there. And it's all in the show notes. And you can just check those out. And again, please, please, please just leave a review or a Twitch subscription. Those both are easy and, depending on your system with Twitch, free ways to support us. So that is also helpful to just let more people know that we exist. And that's all we're trying to do, is grow the community. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to Michael. And we actually got some news this week, finally.
Yeah, we have a wide array of different news topics. I actually had to cut this list down just because there was a ton of smaller stuff. But we'll start with one where me and Dave know very little about, but we know the franchise. EA has apparently started to prepare their names for their departure from the FIFA license. So currently there is a contract with FIFA, I believe a 10-year deal that is about to expire with EA. So EA has filed trademark for a couple different things. EA FC and then EA Sports Football Club are their two trademarks. And it looks like Jeff Grubb confirmed that they're just not interested in re-upping their deal with FIFA, which makes sense because there's a lot of controversy with that organization, and also it's just an expensive license to just maintain. But then Video Games Chronicles looked into it further, and looks like the deal is expiring in November, which means this upcoming FIFA game or EA Sports game featuring soccer will probably be the last one with the FIFA name as they wrap up the contract. So EA is going to have a couple different things like this because they have their the football game coming out, but that one doesn't have the NCAA license, I believe.
I don't know if it's going to be called NCAA football.
I think it's college football. Yeah, I think it's EA Sports College Football.
And then I'd be really curious because we've seen a lot of stuff with the name, image, and likeness stuff for the NCAA. Especially with the tournament just happening, a lot of those people are getting a lot of publicity and starting to see as people get comfortable with the name, image, and likeness. So that'll be super interesting to see. The FIFA thing is a surprise, but it's not a surprise. So we've seen Pro Evolution Soccer kind of go through some issues like this, where now it's actually kind of similar to the video game world. What we've been talking about is that there are other things in the soccer football regime other than FIFA. And they are starting to, these organizations are starting to realize, A, how large they are, B, how much power they have. And they're kind of going against FIFA a little bit. As FIFA is a top organization for soccer, it's the FIFA World Cup. But they also have been, I want to say the last 10 years, there's been a lot of corruption issues within the FIFA board that are causing some stuff, and we've seen some similar to what college football in particular is kind of going through of do we really need FIFA, or can we just make our own board and and make our own tournaments, and it's super, super interesting just to see these companies and they are companies essentially realize that Barcelona or Real Madrid, I don't think Barcelona is a country, not a team, but Real Madrid is I'm the owner of Real Madrid is I'm the most powerful owner in soccer. Why do I have to answer to FIFA? My team generates more money than your entire organization. Why do I have to follow your rules? And
Yeah,
that's kind
and
of
that's a problem for EA.
yeah, and that's kind of what EA is running into now as well. Is like these teams are like the I feel like the team names like Real Madrid and I'm blanking on some of the other names. I'm sorry, but
Chelsea or something. Yeah. That's all I can think of.
Any of these other teams are realizing like it's better for us to make an independent contract with somebody than it is for us to just get revenue sharing from FIFA.
Well, yeah, and that's something that like EA has probably been doing of just like, okay, we can negotiate with FIFA, but if we want these specific leagues, we have to negotiate separately from them. And they must have looked at the charts and stuff and just like, is it really worth negotiating with FIFA at this point to have a World Cup feature in our game?
Which
or is
most I don't like it. The thing that I attribute to like the time that I spent hours upon hours playing NCAA college football, like in the late 2010s to 2013 or whatever, it was all about wanting to make our own conferences and make our own thing, or take the small team and move them up and recruit that way. And I almost feel like a diehard soccer fan or a diehard FIFA player that's not playing Ultimate Team wants to like, I want to have like these two teams that don't play in the same leagues play against each other. Like, I don't want to have to follow the FIFA brackets. Like, I want to have fun.
Yeah.
I want it to be my game. And if it has the FIFA name on it, you probably couldn't do. And I don't know. I haven't dug into FIFA at all.
I know. I think you could do that already. But when you look at EA's perspective, it's just like, why do we have to call this FIFA?
Right. Yeah.
Why are we negotiating?
And how much money are they giving FIFA just to put their name on the box?
Yeah, exactly. And it means they'll probably be missing a feature, but at that point, they could just put those resources elsewhere. And then who knows? This could be one of those things where FIFA currently is getting kicked for all their corruption. That in a couple years they might be able to come back to the table and be like, okay, EA, please, include us, and then EA will have the negotiating power.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, we're gonna, I think, start to see a lot of changes with like how EA's handling their licenses, because it seems like a couple deals are coming up and they're re-upping certain stuff. So I wonder if we're gonna see if EA knows that they can do this with soccer and it's still going to be a success. Because again, FIFA, like, no one calls it the soccer game; people call it FIFA when you're talking about this game, this franchise. So if they lose that name brand and are still successful, because they'll be successful enough, soccer is still the biggest sport in the world.
Yeah,
but losing that
FIFA
brand,
take a hit, though, like the player that maybe only buys FIFA or one other game that Google's FIFA 2024 and it doesn't come up.
Doesn't see it. Yeah.
Like that could be, a little. I'm sure EA is smart enough to make sure that their Google searches are taken care of. They have the money to take care of that. But just as an example, like, you get a random, and you and I have seen this in the retail world, that they come into the store like, yeah, I want that new FIFA game. Ah, we ain't got it, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, we got this soccer game which is made by the same company, and it's the same thing that came out on the same day that FIFA came out last year, but we don't have FIFA. Like, yes.
Well, but at least, like, if it turns out well for EA, like, they're like, oh, we didn't actually see too much of a drop. They might have more confidence in like the football game that they're putting out for NCAA of to say, oh, we don't need a name brand on this.
That's so different because that's been so long. Like, like, it's been so long, and I hope that they're able to sign like exclusive deals with, I don't even know, like University of Michigan, University of Southern California, University of Texas, to where like custom cover art, like local cover art, I think would be a huge get for them if they could do it. Like where like in specific countries, in Chicago, I mean with soccer or with NCAA football, but like in Chicago, is even as bad as the team is, University of Illinois, like that eye on the box, it would draw somebody's attention.
Even if you make it an alumni,
right?
Like. That could do well for them. Yeah, I just wonder if this works out well, will EA then go to the NFL license and be like, do we need to still pay for Madden?
That's dramatically different. Like, first of all,
FIFA's been around 30 years though with EA.
Yeah, but
so
NFL is the NFL, man. Like, it's Madden NFL football. Like, the Madden part is gonna always be there. Like, to your point, can it just be called Madden? Like, yes, I think it could be called Madden.
No, or can it just be called NFL, EA Sports NFL? Like, will EA start looking at their franchises and just like,
Madden,
do we need? they have to pay some sort of thing to the Madden family for using his name, unless
Yeah,
he
but
sold,
it's
unless he
probably
signed a
not
bad
much.
deal.
Like, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
lot, but it's not much. It's they're paying way more for the NFL license.
But when you're EA and you're
Yeah.
just gonna look eventually to like where can we cut some corners
Yeah.
to like save some money, so
I don't think
a
cutting
mediocre
Madden would
bonus.
be like. I don't think that's a good idea. Like,
No, it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
But like companies don't really think like that. They
I don't
think of like
cutting
how do we
FIFA
save
is a
money.
terrible idea. Like, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I just don't know the ramifications enough of it to see. So,
Yeah, but I guess we'll find out maybe next year, because it sounds like this year their contract ends in November. They're probably locked into one more FIFA. So I guess we'll find out what happens next year. Or if they'll start slipping it in there to like have just one of the modes called, football club
and
or
the
whatever.
interesting part about it too is that I'm pretty sure, like I remember this with the NFL and MLB and NBA stuff. Like, typically they're contractually obligated to a certain date, and that is probably with FIFA. So they would not necessarily be contractually obligated. And I think they could also possibly open up the window for them to do some seasonal type content in the soccer game that FIFA doesn't let them do.
Dumb American question. Do you think having Madden football on the shelf and then right next to it EA Sports Football Club on the shelf, would that be confusing to the average consumer in the US?
No, because one will have like an NFL player on it and the other one will have a soccer ball on it.
Have you seen some of the Madden covers? Sometimes they just have players in street clothes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering if there'll be just like some small chance that someone's going to pick up the wrong game.
Grandma's like, I
"Shit."
got you the new football game, not that football, Grandma.
Yeah, I just wonder if the stupid American aspect to this that we're just not quite seeing yet, that we'll see eventually.
Well,
Wouldn't
wouldn't it be spelled FOOS, like almost like foosball, or like?
So they trademarked. Yeah, I see what you mean. But they trademarked FOOT. So we'll see what happens. All right. Next story. Kim Swift has been announced the head of a new arm of Xbox Game Studios called their. What is the official name of it? I think it's just Publishing Cloud. Xbox Game Studios Publishing Cloud. So Kim Swift she was one of the creative leads behind Portal and Left 4 Dead at Valve, and then had previously worked at Stadia, working on their cloud tech, and then Microsoft had hired her last June, and at the time, people were saying they specifically hired her and put her in charge of the cloud
Kojima
stuff.
Whisperer, right?
Yeah, so it seems like maybe this is the next step to that, but basically there was GDC talks set up to where Kim Swift was basically pitching how Microsoft wants to just have everything in the cloud, so all the computing is happening in the cloud before it's being streamed to the player, and this definitely is the type of stuff that is probably several years away. But last year it was reported that Kojima was really interested in messing with that technology and would be interested in signing an exclusive deal with Microsoft if this cloud technology could be used. And then that's around the same time Microsoft had hired Kim Swift because they figured, let's put a developer in charge of this to pitch to another developer the possibilities. So this could still lead to a Kojima thing, though that will be years away from seeing like a final product.
Yeah, the fact that like I think it's a pro and a con that she worked for Stadia. Like, the pro is like Stadia's technology, like it functions really well. like as it, like the little bit that I've messed with Stadia, like it works really well. They just weren't able to market it correctly at all.
Yeah.
So, and also at its core right now, I feel Xbox cloud technology, at least on my phones, works really well. So now, like, there obviously are certain things that it struggles with, but like I struggle to play Destiny over 5G, but I could play Nobody Saves the World over 5G. Like, so I think that there's been other like turn-based RPGs. Like, there's certain things, like games that I should, people, if they have Game Pass Ultimate or whatever, should definitely check out on their phones, because it is viable. It does work. Some of them support touch control even. So like, it's there, and it's something that Microsoft is clearly invested in for the long haul, and this just shows it. And in its infancy, I see endless potential as networks infrastructure improves and tech just gets stronger.
Yeah, this seems like the type of move where you make this hire last June is when a hire happened, and that's just for pitching. And it sounds at this point the pitch was successful, so Microsoft's like, let's invest even further into this. But it's definitely one of those things we won't see the fruits from this for several years, because even though Microsoft has been dabbling with cloud tech for a while, I don't know if you remember, Dave, but Crackdown 3 was supposed to be using cloud tech, but then it wasn't, the technology wasn't there. So they're like, okay, Crackdown 3 is just a traditional game now. So it's something that Microsoft's been wanting to do. They've just been a little too ahead of. And now
we've seen little pieces of this. Like Nintendo's actually been doing a pretty good job with this with some of their Switch games, like being played through the cloud.
For in terms of that, but like this is like next level stuff of just like, what if everything, like all the tech that's running this computer is in the cloud, to where it can output something crazy beyond what like a commercial unit can do. So this definitely is like super far in advance, but when this news was announced, I wonder if this was just like one step closer to finally finding out if Kojima's going to sign that deal with them. Because man, if you told Kojima like, hey, we're working on technology that not be ready for 5 to 10 years, I feel like that man would sign up immediately of like, oh, I got 5 to 10 years to dick around. Okay, cool. And then he would sign up for it. And then we just would to see cool tweets for the next 5 to 10 years before an actual game. All right, let's get into basically it's like our games service corner of this week. So I just wanted to start off with Xbox Game Pass news. So a lot of numbers have started to like come out of how much Xbox has actually been spending and paying out. So there was a report that said Xbox has reportedly paid indie developers roughly $2.5 billion in royalties through Game Pass since its inception. And that's for indie developers. We're not counting major publishers, major developers. It's indie. So this shows you exactly why indie games are coming day and date, day one onto Game Pass, is because there's a shit ton of money Microsoft is throwing out there. It also was reported that they've basically paid out all developers and publishers somewhere in the range of like hundreds of millions of dollars in licensing fees. So there's a ton of money in this, in terms of tons of money Microsoft's willing to spend and at a certain level willing to lose in order to build out this brand. And then a recent example of a major game that came to them is Guardians of the Galaxy. It sounds like they paid Square Enix somewhere between $5 to $10 million to bring Guardians of the Galaxy to Game Pass. And this was what, like 6 months past its initial release,
I think it came
roughly?
out, like, late October?
Yeah. So yeah, this is just interesting to just kind of see how much money Xbox is willing to spend to make this thing happen. And will it work in the long run? We don't know. But when we talk about the next story, we'll see why, one company's doing things a little differently than the other, because this is a lot of money.
Yeah, and I think it is a lot of money, but at the same time, people forget about, and I don't know how much it costs for, like, if when you sign up, when Michael signs up for Game Pass and you give them $10 a month or whatever, I don't know how much it costs for them to add you as a user. So like the cost of running Game Pass, like I don't know the cost of that. I can only speak to the stuff that I do know. So I'm even lowballing it here now. The last figure that we heard was 25 million Game Pass subscribers, correct? Okay. So if you take 20 million, again, I'm trying to lowball it here, and then and if you do it times 7, let's say it's $7 a month, and I'm trying to factor in all the people that are maybe getting free trials or $1. You could go even lower if you wanted to, but that's 140 million a month. And then if you and then in a year, it's 1.6 billion in a year. And again, I feel like I'm lowballing that figure. So for them, since Game Pass's inception, which I don't know how long it's been, and I know it hasn't been as big of a deal as it is the last couple of years, for them to put $2.5 billion into games for Game Pass over the entire lifespan of Game Pass, I don't feel like is that high.
high is in
like
their
that
spending?
cost, yeah, like in terms of the amount of money that they're bringing in from Game Pass versus the amount of money that they're putting out.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely willing to take a loss in general for this whole thing. And I think they're just going to have to go the Netflix route, where Netflix has been at a loss for several years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fine with that because they make enough to pay their bills and continue to be number one. And Microsoft is just determined to just get into a house. So they're willing to bleed what they can. If you're saying
I just
their
don't think
loss
it's bleeding that much. Like I don't
no,
like it. Like
especially when we're talking about
breaking
a company
even.
like
do I think it's breaking even right now? No, but do I think it's showing enough upward trajectory that they're seeing? Hey, we spend $10 million on Guardians of the Galaxy. I think I did the math for somebody the other day. Like if they would have gotten 50,000 new users just to pay for Game Pass for $10 for 1 month, that would have generated them $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
So does Guardians of the Galaxy carry enough weight to add 50,000 subscribers to the service? I don't know.
Wouldn't it be 500,000? My math is bad. But yeah, no, but still, like, yeah, that would have been 500,000, I believe. But I see your point in terms of like just bringing people in, especially now that we're kind of past the.
Yeah, I think if they would have stayed for the whole year, I'm sorry. Like,
if they still stayed the whole year, yeah. But they're at the point right now where we're kind of past their dollar, their dollar phase, which was like always the thing that people would count against Game Pass is, oh, they're giving out subscriptions for $1, and I think we're past that now.
You can still get it. But I think
but it's not as prevalent as it was before.
I see the people on Twitter that, if you just do this you jump through this hoop and let it circle and light it on fire and jump through it backwards, you can do it again.
Only so many people willing to do all that shit.
Right.
So and I'm one of those people. I'm just gonna pay for the thing and don't have to worry about it.
And I just pay for I sign it up for the monthly thing and I just don't even think about it. Like,
yeah. I will think about it when my monthly thing is done. My all access is done.
I wasn't thinking about before all access.
Keeping it?
I feel like me personally, like every time I've even remotely considered dropping Game Pass as a subscription, something newsworthy has been like, and even like Guardians of the Galaxy, even though I own it, that little carrot or that little shiny light of potential is like, okay, I'll keep it. I already own Guardians, but the potential of like, oh, what's next?
Mm-hmm. No, and that's what they have to bank on. And unfortunately, like we're still waiting for them to like hit that first party thing. Because right now, I feel like Xbox has completely failed in terms of delivering first party new games day one. Because in reality, half a Halo game and a FIFA and a Forza game are all the first party day one releases that we've really gotten. I don't count Psychonauts 2 because that was already that was coming to everything. And
can you really count Starfield? That was going to happen with or without them buying them.
Yeah. So. But when it comes to like just Xbox's failure to produce first party titles is definitely annoying. But it's also one of those things where eventually it will happen. And we will hit that stride where they're going to be releasing 2 or 3 a year. And then that's definitely right around the time my all access will be done. And I'll probably be stuck subscribing them because then they're going to have like, Arcane's new game is out. Yep. And then, Bethesda's new game is out.
And then somebody's new Fallout is out.
So they'll eventually hit that stride. But I do think like Xbox has definitely failed in delivering the first party promise. But I think once we get past this year, they'll hit that stride, and then it's going to be a new conversation because I think by then we will probably have the TV app that that we've been kind of waiting on, and then that's going to open up a whole new market for them, especially like
that would be like a fourth platform for me for the service.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could play on a console, I could play on my phone, I could play on a PC, and then I could just have the controller in my bedroom, and it'll just work. Like that's the game changer thing for it, and I think that's the long term, like this is a software company, like they, like we know, like yeah, they're a huge corporation, like yeah, they can take a hit, but at the same time they're still a corporation. Like Spencer still has to answer to somebody, and he has to show what the cost is doing, and whatever the chart is looking like in 2030, like whatever this chart that he's showing is going to look like in 2030. And he also has to be hitting some kind of projection milestone every X amount of dollars that he goes to them and goes, hey, I want to give Square Enix $8 million. Hey, I want to give MLB publishers $7 million or 10, 12, 15 or whatever it is. Somebody has to sign off on that. Phil Spencer does not have a magical hat that has endless money in it. Does Microsoft have endless money? Yeah. But there's a certain point in time where somebody's going to go, hey, you know what? The last 2 or 3 ones I didn't hit your criteria. Like you don't get it this time.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure like that's where Xbox comes in and just has a list of like, okay, we put Avengers, a poorly reviewed game, on our service, and it got this many additional people. Let's go Guardians, a well-reviewed game that we project will bring this many people
and
in.
Also,
so
I think some of it has to do with that deal that they signed with Square. Like Square's already helping them with something else, right?
Yeah, Square is handling with the Perfect Dark with Crystal Dynamics.
So it's kind of probably this give and take thing of like, under the like, okay, well, yeah, like you come help us and we'll make sure that Guardians does better, like or something.
Well, I mean, already it's been Avengers is at the platform, Guardians is at the platform. At one point, all the Final Fantasy games, save for the remakes, have hit the platform. All the Kingdom Hearts games have hit the platform. So Square Enix is like, if you're printing checks, we will gladly accept the checks. And we just also happen to have a crazy big catalog that we can strike separate deals for. So definitely, especially when you see hundreds of millions of dollars have been paid out to developers and publishers through Game Pass, it shows you that companies like Square are paying attention. EA doing EA Play or EA Play? Is it EA Play? I always forget what the name is. EA Play, them adding their service into Game Pass is why these deals are happening, is because there's money to be made. And for the most part, it's easy money for Square Enix. It's basically free money.
I think somebody was saying like Microsoft essentially bought like 150,000 copies of the game with this.
Basically, yeah. They're like, here's 100,000 copies sold. And we'll get into it now. PlayStation has officially announced their new tiered system for PlayStation Plus. So let me get into some of the details. This was the often rumored Project Spartacus. So we're going to have 3 different tiers. We're going to have Essential, which is just current PlayStation Plus. So it stays $9.99 a month, $59.99 a year. Current PlayStation Plus, which is 2 games, cloud shit, and everything we know. I don't think I need to explain PlayStation Plus to anyone listening here. And then we're going to get our second tier, which is Extra, which includes everything from the Essential tier, and a library of 400 downloadable first and third party PS4 and PS5 games.
Essentially, so PS Now and Plus together.
Half of PS Now.
Okay.
Basically. And the second half of PS Now is in the premium tier. I should say Extra is $14.99 a month or $99 a year. And then we have Premium, which is $17.99 a month and $119 a year. And that includes everything from the previous tiers and an additional 340 games that include PS3 games that are streamable only, and downloadable options for PS1, PS2, PSP games. And then there'll be other features like cloud streaming to PC, as well as access to limited game trials on this tier. So, initial thoughts of the new tiered system. I know you hate tiered systems a little bit.
I guess I say I hate tiered systems, but at the same time, I like Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate and what they do. This, and I've had a couple days to think about this and to make sure that I word things properly. This is essentially a rebranding of PS Now. That's all it is. It's not an upgrade to PS Plus. It's a rebranding of PS Now. And
it's a disintegration.
And rolling PS Now into PS Plus, which So I saw somewhere on social media that between the two services, like PlayStation Plus is 95% and PS Now is 5%. So like putting everything into PS Plus is a good marketing idea. I also never really realized, like, financially, how much PlayStation fucking rips you off if you pay by the month.
Oh yeah, no, but that's always been their key is they want you to pay for the year. It's fine
when it's 50, when it was 40, 50, $60 a year. Like I'm like, but now it's like, okay, you can pay $119. You can give me $120 right now. Or I have this really good deal for you that's $17 a month, and in the end, it's $216.
Oh yeah, no, that's always been their thing. Is they would rather you pay for the year because it's guaranteed money as opposed to you paying month to month.
But I'm worried in this scenario with Plus, it was like, okay, I'm paying $60, and I know like the 98% of what I use PlayStation Plus for is to play games online. Like, that's what I use it for. The other 2% is, sure, there's every 3 months there's a cool game. Like now with three different PlayStations in my house, I've been using the cloud stuff a little bit more often than I had been prior. So that's cool. I don't think that you should charge for that. I think that's bullshit. Xbox doesn't charge for it in any platform. And that part is fine. And then, but I don't like committing to PS Now with the information that we have today of, oh, here's Spider-Man and here's God of War. Those games were like $14 already. Like,
I mean, they are. So they did announce like there's no real details on the libraries that we'll have, but they did say day one, Death Stranding, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Mortal Kombat 11 and Returnal will be on that mid-tier.
So Returnal and Miles Morales are the only two gold star games that I would say are like that's a ding benefit, like a plus benefit for them because
they're relatively new. Or Death Stranding you can probably put in there as well.
Well, but I think you can go buy Death Stranding for like $20 or $30 right now.
It's on multiple
PS5
platforms,
version, but so like Returnal, great. Miles Morales, great. Also, Miles Morales has sold so many copies already that I don't know if somebody who ever wanted to play it has not played it yet. Nor do I think that this being on that service will make them want to play it. And so the biggest thing is that comparing this to Xbox Live, it destroys it. Like comparing this new PlayStation Plus tiered system to Xbox Live, it destroys it. Comparing it to Game Pass, not even close.
And then that's ultimately what I think. Like, PlayStation was never at this point. This is clear, and then we'll talk about the Jim Ryan interview after this. They never intended to compete with Game Pass.
Right.
This is a kind of
the media portrayed it as the Game Pass competitor.
And that was a big problem. This is somewhere in between Nintendo Switch Online and Game Pass.
Right.
This is right in between those two services, and I think that's fine.
This is Sony trying to get money back out of their cloud investments with PS Now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like PlayStation Now stagnated. Like once it hit, I think it like consistently is at like the $1 to $3 million. Or 1 to 3 million users on PS Now. And it just wasn't increasing. So PlayStation was like, okay, since PlayStation Plus is inception, or PlayStation Now's inception, people are like, why don't you just add this to PlayStation Plus? And they finally hit the point where they're like, okay, let's just add it because there's no growth for PlayStation Now because we just haven't done a good job marketing it. And even when we announce new games for it, no one really gives a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. No one really cared. And they finally did it, but they broke it in half. And because there are PS1, PS2, and PS3 games in PlayStation Now currently, they just broke it in half and then have put the older games in that higher tier, which I understand a logic from. There's only a small amount of players from the base that are going to want to play those old games. So they are going to come at a premium, especially if you're going to have to stream them. If Sony's going to have to take the effort to stream those PS3 games, they're going to put it at the higher tier so they can kind of cap themselves a little bit in terms of how much tech they need to put into it.
Commit to doing this,
which totally makes sense. I do appreciate that they tiered it to a point, but I almost wish this was a 2-tier system as opposed to 3 tiers. Though it works out for you because you're probably middle tier. Like,
I don't even know if I'm going to go up a tier.
no, I don't know. But in terms of like your interest level, I would assume if you were to just go up a tier,
Yeah.
or if you were to pick a tier, you would probably be like, okay, tier 2 is the only one that I would reasonably.
I would really have to see a detailed list of the games.
Yeah.
Like,
and for me, I would consider, for the fuck of it, doing
right,
tier
'cause you
3,
love
but
to
I
play
still need
those
to see a
older
list.
games. But you love because you love to play the older games. I don't. Like I get what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
But and I know this isn't coming out until June, so they have more time to do stuff. I said this before the announcement. And now that it's coming out in June, it kind of like took some steam away from the announcement. But like, how are you not having MLB on this service? Like, how can you sit there in the room and sit there and like, I get it. Like, yeah, you want to sell your games. Like, that's fine. I understand that. And you're going to talk quotes from the Jim Ryan thing, but you know, it's you own the studio. You own the IP. Like, take the hit. You get the microtransaction money regardless. Like,
Well, and that's the thing is like I feel like there are certain games that PlayStation definitely could take the hit on, and MLB is definitely one of the games that could take.
I understand it was a top 5 selling game of the year last year. I get that, but I'm sure that came also a chunk of percentage of that came from the Xbox player base because they did, like we just talked about, they did the 3 months for $1 and stopped. And you go, hey, you know what? The only thing I'm really playing is MLB. Let me buy it for 20% off or whatever before this thing expires. Let it expire, and then I have MLB.
Well, the thing is, when you talk about MPDs, that doesn't account the Game Pass players because they don't get
right,
equated
but that's
into
what I'm saying is that the Game Pass player did it for a month just to see, hey, is this MLB game any good? Oh, I really like it, and then they buy it because it's not in there. I saw some of the GDC stuff about the Game Pass. I don't think you put it as a bullet point, but they're saying Game Pass subscribers spend 30% more money on games.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of money to be made through that. And that's one thing that of the tiers, like I totally understand why you would put PS3, PS2, PS1, PSP games in like the top tier. But the free game trials, that seems like something you should just add to base PS Plus.
What games are going to be these trials? Like your games?
But regardless of what games are being trialed, wouldn't you want to make the thing that would make people spend more money available at like the lowest tier so those people can spend more money?
If you're going to spend the money on the demo and the investment time on a demo or a trial or like a 2-hour window into the game, which whether you think it's easy or not easy, I'm sure it has to still be coded. Like I that should just be available to the players, to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, demos shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to pay for demos.
I've been saying that since it's been rumored for like the last 10 days. Like, a demo is not a feature.
But if you're going to put it in a tier, why don't you put it in a tier that most people are going to be in?
We had trials.
Yes, yeah.
They kind of took it away. It's quietly, and now they're adding it in the tier that costs twice as much.
Yeah, I don't understand the placement of that feature. Everything else, I totally understand the placement. Like, most people are going to subscribe to Essential and Extra.
I feel like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah. I feel like this announcement happened because of all the leaks that happened last week, and they weren't ready. And they are still, and that's why it's like, oh, we're going to talk to you more in June. So they're going to slowly talk about the games that are coming to this service because whether you like it or don't like it, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, this service has to have some kind of heavy hitters. It has to have something. It's not going to have Ragnarok. It's not going to have Forbidden West. I don't know why Horizon 1 isn't on there at this point in time.
I'm hoping that's an announcement they just make.
Yeah.
Eventually, because it's still like it would be the oldest game in this announcement of
and then,
list.
At this point in time, a year later, like when this comes out in June, a year later, Ratchet should just be there.
Yeah. I totally like agree with that aspect. But I don't know. It's like you say, like you think they just made this announcement because it was leaked. And honestly, this has been PlayStation's standard for announcements the last couple years of vague, like very bare bones announcement, followed by a Jim Ryan interview or 1 or 3 on different websites, and then silence until the thing launches, to where people just have the discourse. I mean, this is what we thrive off of.
Yeah.
But it definitely seems like this is PlayStation's thing. Is like,
it was like an
here's
8
an
a.m.
announcement.
blog post Eastern time. Like you weren't even you weren't even awake probably.
Yeah, but like they did that for PSVR.
Yeah.
They did that for like several other things to where, I mean, that's how they announced the PS5. Like they put a blog post out and then you had to go find like 3 Jim Ryan interviews in GQ magazine or whatever, or Wired. And
Fireside
then
chats.
you got, yeah. And then you got the info. Like this is kind of what PlayStation does now, where they make an announcement that seems too early because it doesn't have details. And then you have to fish around for a Jim Ryan interview to get the details. And then you still have to wait a couple of months for everything to happen. I don't really understand their logic. It definitely gets people talking. I mean, obviously we're talking about it, and guess what? We have until June to continue to talk about it as stuff leaks out. And stuff will leak out because clearly that's how they do stuff.
Off the bat, I hate the pricing model. I hate it. 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 I don't care.
I don't mind the yearly.
Says it costs more than Ultimate. I don't care what you say. It costs more than Ultimate.
No, it's less than Ultimate.
Not
if you go with the yearly.
Yeah, but you don't have a yearly option for Ultimate.
You do, but it's expensive as shit.
I've never seen a yearly option for Ultimate.
I think you can get a yearly but the reason you don't hear about it too much is because it's a crazy price point.
Yeah, Palmer was telling me you could buy like 3-month chunks of it and save somehow and stack it. But that, again, I don't like to jump through a flaming hoop circling around backwards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never a fan of like, here's some really high prices, but don't worry, we have a deal for you if you want to commit for a year.
It's like a cell phone deal. Like
the one thing I want to know is just like, okay, I'm a crazy person. You just talked about a fellow crazy person, Palmer. He has stacking, PlayStation.
He's got plus through 2027 or something.
I have plus through 2026 or 2025. I wish they would have had like, hey, here's how you can upgrade your current.
They don't have that figured out yet. That's why they didn't say anything. They don't know what they're going to do.
They either know what they're going to do and it's going to be ugly, and that's why they're just going to wait. Because if I go through my friend list on PlayStation and I do a poll, I guarantee everyone on my list, and we're talking about like 100 or so people.
Yeah.
Most of them have it stacked.
Yeah, for sure. Because it was like when it's $25, you buy 3 of them.
Yeah. Like most people I know have it stacked, and I really want to know what they plan to do for people.
Well, I think
in those
people
instances.
stacked it like crazy too, and they said from 50 to 60 like years ago.
That was like, I know I think I'm still writing.
Yeah.
Like that initial stacking where when they raised the price, I just went out because they were selling like the old cards, you know, that had the old price on them. I am interested. So especially what disappoints me with this is I'm interested in a premium tier. Again, I'm crazy and I don't mind paying for stuff for yearly because it's a good deal.
But, I mean, from your standpoint though, it's like if the way that you play video games, like you'll dabble with something for a little while. You don't have to get out your PS2. You like, again, from a content creation standpoint for us, you know, if you wanted to stream, it's way easier to stream from your PS5 and playing a PS2 game. Like way easier. Like I completely understand that. I just don't like the pricing model of it. Like I don't, because
I almost wish they only offered yearly. Like the quarterly and yearly would have been way more palatable.
Here's my
especially
problem
for you.
with it though. Like, okay, so like, and we've talked about this, and I know people are gonna roll your eyes or whatever. Okay, option A is Xbox Series S and Game Pass Ultimate. Not even All Access, just Game Pass or just Game Pass. You don't even need Ultimate because you just have a series. It's $300 and $120 a year, $10 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. So
you don't have online play for most of the games.
But if you buy, I think okay, fine. I think I
you need Ultimate. Yeah.
Okay. So even if
they're on a 3-tiered system,
even if you jump up to Ultimate, you're at $480. Okay. So and you're good. Like you really don't need to buy anything else for your Xbox at that current time. Like for quite a while. And you spent $480 and you're done. Okay. You could easily let's just talk a 3-month window. You could easily find 3 months of games to play for $480 buying an S and Ultimate. Agreed?
Sure.
Okay. So now your barrier of entry for a PlayStation right now is the PS5. PS4s are almost impossible to find. Pandemic, not pandemic, they're almost impossible to find. PS5 is $500, $400 for digital.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go $400. and then $120 for the highest PlayStation Plus tier. So that puts you up to $520. And if you want to play Last of Us or you want to play Ragnarok, $70.
Yeah, it gets really expensive.
$600.
But what I was getting to is, for someone like me who knows I'm most interested in the premium tier, and I would say most people that are going to the PlayStation blog to find this news are probably interested in the premium tier. Could you have thrown me just a little bit of a bone and been like, we'll have the entire
they don't
Ratchet
care about you.
But that's the one that they're asking for the most money from.
I don't think that they want this to sell. Like,
that's what I feel like.
Like, I think that's part of the reason why it's priced like this. Like, I think they're just like, it's almost like those companies that do the microtransaction stupid crap. Oh, you want? It's a long-standing joke. Some people get it, some people won't get it. You want bullet camouflage? It's $14.99.
But what I don't get is this, like, regardless of if they don't want it to succeed or whatever, would it have been really hard to just be like, here's an example of a PS... You gave me an example of PS4 and PS5 games that are coming. You couldn't have given me an example. And also, when they talk about, like, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and, like, Death Stranding, they don't say if you're getting the PS4 one or the PS5 version. So it'd be funny if they're the PS4 versions. There's a possibility that's going to be the case. But, like, you're telling me you couldn't have been like, here's all the PS2 Ratchet & Clank games. Here's all the Resistance games on PS3. Because, like, right now, if I look on PS Now, the library is super uneven. There's, like, 2 of the 3 Resistance games. I
Do you
think
this is going to be any better in 3 months?
No, that's the problem. Is I feel like literally the numbers equal to what's currently on PlayStation Now.
Right.
Which makes me think
PS Now rebranded with 4 shiny games.
Yeah, no, and that's my ultimate fear.
I'm sorry, they're not that shiny. They're fantastic games, but if you wanted to play Miles Morales, you've played it by now.
Yeah, Returnal's the only one that really sticks out.
Yep, and I don't want to keep going back to it, but like Nobody Saves the World, great game. MLB The Show, great game. Outriders, decent game. Medium, decent game. Like, these were things that came out and on day one were on the service. Or even within a launch, hell, Guardians of the Galaxy is still technically in their launch window based on how long these launch windows go for these games.
I mean, especially for Square.
Yeah. So it's I get it. And like, I know, like, you're going to talk about what Jim Ryan's saying about why they can't do their games day one, but like, why isn't and I don't even know if it is or isn't on there, but like Uncharted 4 should be on there.
Yeah. Because they're selling Lost Legacy collection. So
I know,
yeah,
but
I know, and it sucks because it's just like, we go back to what I said about PS Now. Why aren't all 3 Resistance games on there? They're all on the same platform.
You won't get Last of Us 1 on there. Do you know why you won't get Last of Us 1 on there? Because they want you to buy the remake. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if it is on there, it's going to be the PS3 Last of Us, like the OG Last of Us, not the PS4 remastered, because the PS5 remastered's coming. There's so many things, like, I'm fine with it. I'm just kind of glad they didn't mess with base PlayStation Plus. Appreciate that. I feel like this is actually a 2-tiered system that we'll see support for, and that 3rd tier, that premium one, it's going to be one of those ones where, like, that 340 games of, like, PS3, PS1, PS2, PSP games, I feel like that's going to be a stagnant list. Like, it'll be like, hey, here's all these games, and then maybe every once in a while they'll throw a couple more in there, as opposed to that essential tier.
Well, yeah, we haven't seen
or the extra tier.
Yeah, we haven't seen until today. And I could be wrong, but I was reading the PlayStation Plus for April, which is kind of good, kind of bad, depending. Like, Hood's a cool game. Like, I've been interested in checking out Hood, and now it's like on Plus. I will check it out. Persona 5 is coming off the Instant Game Collection.
Yeah, the PlayStation Plus collection.
That was like at the bottom of the April update, like so it was kind of like buried. That's the first, I believe, alteration to the PlayStation Plus collection.
Yeah, it has been, and it's definitely. I mean, that collection I think will go away in June.
Well, because almost all those games are going to be on the.
Yeah, like that as a collection is just going to be gone, and it's going to be thrown in that middle tier. But I don't know. The pricing is definitely high. I don't mind the yearly pricing. just because that's how I prefer to do things. But I felt like there's better ways to announce this. I shouldn't have to chase stuff.
Chunk, though. Like to buy a console, to buy a game, and to buy the service. Like that's a huge chunk. And then not like the difference is we know two things for Game Pass that are huge things that are not disputable. You cannot dispute these. One, every Xbox Game Studio game will be on Game Pass, day and date. Mm-hmm. Two, every Xbox Studio game will remain on Game Pass. Yeah. Are you confident that Miles Morales will stay on this service indefinitely?
Well, no, and that's the problem with PlayStation Now. They've rotated, and Horizon was there for a little bit. God of War was there for a little bit. Yeah. They rotate PS Now of their own games that they control.
Starfield will be there forever.
Yes.
Or at least for Game Pass life, however short or long it is.
Yeah, whenever Microsoft, the parent company, pulls the plug on Game Pass, when they realize Phil Spencer's just been burning money, then they'll go away. But yeah, no, it's definitely... I wish they would have announced this better, something. Give me a sizzle trailer with like little tiny tiles that I have to freeze and like see
the state of play. Like, give me a state of play, have Ryan talk, have him talk about certain things, show a bunch of cool shit, and then talk a little bit more after with the bullet points that you have here.
Yeah. Especially if you're just going to put stuff on the blog post. If you're worried about, being boring, the people that look at the PlayStation blog, like myself, we would eat up a list of games. Especially you have 340. That's an oddly specific number, which means that's the exact number we'll see in June, which means just put that list up. Let me see that list. Yeah. I would love it. Even if I didn't like any of the games on it, I'd be like, cool, I know what's coming. As opposed to now where there's going to be 2 months of speculation and maybe just a drip feed of information. But again, this whole thing, this was never meant to be a Game Pass competitor. Mm-hmm.
It's a rebranding of PS Now. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, of Plus. And
but Plus didn't change.
I know, but they folded in Now into Plus.
No, they rebranded PS Now.
But it's the thing that sucks though is this is like
PS
5
Plus,
years too late.
PS Plus acquired PS Now.
Yeah, but this is the thing that we've been wanting for like 5+ years.
Yeah,
and we finally got it. But now Microsoft is doing stuff that's more interesting, and then Nintendo's kind of dabbling with like their stuff. Because Nintendo's doing the retro part.
Yeah,
like Nintendo's giving you retro games, not the best selection, but they're doing it. Well, that's why I'm like, this is in between.
My biggest problem, I guess, and I'm not comparing it to Game Pass. I've tried not to do that, but in terms of cost, it's all PlayStation focused though. Like, you could buy Ultimate, never owning a console or a PC.
Yeah, and that was another aspect of this. PlayStation Now was available on PC.
Still is.
Not anymore.
Oh,
like
okay.
It's not you. When this rolls out, that's gone, and you will need the premium tier to still have access to PS Now on PC
to stream it to your console or to stream it to your computer. You always had to stream it, or no? Could you download stuff?
It's only been streaming.
Okay.
PS Now exists streaming only on PC. It won't anymore, and it would only cost $9.99 a month to do it on PC.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're going to have to pay $17.99 to get the premium tier.
So.
Yeah, or $120.
Yeah.
But like. So they're going to lose money. There was an interesting thing that like 75% of PS Now people also subscribe to PlayStation Plus. So those people are going to be saving some money. They're going to be saving like $4 a month in total, or $3.
We have one or two in the community that said that already. Oh, this is a win for me. I'm good.
Oh yeah, and it definitely is for that. But it shows you that like PlayStation Now on PC must have stagnated so much that they're just like, burn it. Mm-hmm. Like they don't. There will be no backlash from that community because that community is just not big enough to.
So, as an example,
get mad.
I'm paying $60 more for Game Pass Ultimate than I would be paying for. I'm paying $60. I'm paying $180 a year for Ultimate at $14.99 a month without a yearly option. I don't need like whatever. And then I could pay $120 for PS Plus Tier 3. I don't even know what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Premium. Okay. And it's really just Plus and Now together. There's no extra benefit to it. There's no day one stuff on it as of now. And you can only play it on consoles or stream it to your PC. Versus, I have the ability to play PC games on any system and on any PC that I sign into with my Microsoft account. I can play on my consoles, and I can play on my
your
phone.
tablet, phone. Yeah,
and I can play on my phone.
Yeah.
That is worth $60 more to me than. And again, I've had a PlayStation 3, a 4, and a 5 now. So any of that stuff that they're dabbling at me in PS Now, me personally, I don't care about, because I don't like to play those games after I've already played them. Like, there's not a desire. I like to play new shiny things other than Destiny.
Yeah. You talk about playing repetitive shit.
Yeah.
This man's like, I just did this dungeon again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a different animal, and I don't know why it's a different animal, but it is. It's just something that triggers in my head. I'm not, and I have an addiction to it.
Animal
I'm
part
not
of
naive
your brain
enough to know that I like. Yes, I realize I use the same thing, and I run the same thing frontwards and backwards. Like, I'm not naive and stupid to say that.
Old game is old, but dungeon is not dungeon. Yeah.
But I think it's on the surface, it's worth the $60 more.
Well, I mean, it's worth the $60 because
to me,
there's at least one or two $60 first party games that will hit that
like,
kind of makes up for that cost.
I'm not going to buy MLB. I'm not going to buy Sony San Diego's MLB The Show on PlayStation this year. I'm not.
Yeah. You'll buy it on Switch potentially, but you're not going to, yeah.
And I'll play it on Game Pass. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, but like, we'll get into it. So Jim Ryan, as you have to do with these announcements, you have to go to another website to find an interview. He did an interview with GameIndustry.biz, and basically it was just reiterating that their business model just isn't set up to be a Game Pass competitor. So the quote that I pulled is this from Jim Ryan: "In terms of putting our own games into the service or any of our services upon their release, as you well know, this is not the road that we've gone down in the past, and it's not a road we're going to go down with this new service. We feel if we were to do that with the games that we make at PlayStation Studios, the virtuous cycle will be broken. The level of investment that we need to make in our studios would not be possible, and we think the knock-on effect on the quality of the game that we make would not be something that gamers want." This is the thing that I've been talking about for a while. It's just currently the way they budget and plan their games, it just wouldn't make sense because they have budgeted everything to equal a $70 product that they sell tens of millions of copies of. And totally understandable why it has to be this way, but I don't understand why it affects the back catalog games as much as it does. And to be fair, like, Jim Ryan's kind of taking pot shots at, like, Xbox can't do this because they haven't yet. Mm-hmm. You know, like I mentioned earlier, like, Xbox hasn't released a big first party game on their platform yet. They've only released half a Halo on their platform because the other half was free to play. So right now, Jim Ryan can say this with confidence that, like, you will see a different quality if we would go this route.
And Forza had just the same amount of steam that Gran Turismo's had. 10, 12 days of tons and tons of conversation and then plateau.
And also Forza is more of a machine than Gran Turismo, where it's just like, we have a formula. This is the formula, and it just works that way. So Jim Ryan does bring up a good point.
That's the problem. Like what you just said, like that's kind of like people are like, oh, like Jim Ryan's essentially saying we can't afford to put the games on PS Plus. What's it called? Essential. And because
premium.
I'm sorry, we can't afford to put the games on PS Plus Premium because our games cost too much money to make. It's essentially what he's saying. And then he fears that the quality of the game would fizzle. And then to your point, like what you just said, Forza has been able to put out something every 12 to 18 months, correct?
Yeah.
And for the most part, is it great? You know, like it's been consistently, let's just on a 1 to 10 scale, they've been consistently able to put out a 7 every 2 years. Boom, 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 boom. Is Gran Turismo higher than a 7?
When their servers are down for 2 whole days, probably, you know,
is Gran Turismo right now higher than a 7? Is it maybe an 8? Let's say it's an 8, okay?
Yeah.
And it took them 7 years to do it. What's better? 5 years.
Well, no, and that's what it, like, 4.5.
What's better?
Yeah.
A 7 every 18 months or an 8 every 4 years? I don't know.
Yeah, no, but it also comes down to like sales in general. But I do see like Microsoft happens to be at this weird phase right now where they almost feel like they're starting at square one with how they're doing everything, because none of their studios.
Blow it up.
Yeah, Phil Spencer had to blow it up, which is why he was in a perfect position to be like, okay, all of our studios don't have shit going on right now. Let's have them build games that can be put onto a games that can be put on like a Netflix service.
Mm-hmm.
And PlayStation, they just don't have that opportunity. Do I see them ultimately like pivoting to trying to compete? Probably not. And I think Jim Ryan even said like they're looking at the short term.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how they are focusing on stuff, which totally makes sense for what money they have to play with and, you know, holding the lead. So like I get why this was never meant to be a Game Pass
right. But
thing.
Eventually a game, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But one thing I do think is this kind of comes down to just their bad way of conveying information. Like they try and be too secretive, stuff leaks, and then we get announcements like this,
mm-hmm.
where if they just announced that they were going to do this or gave all the details, there wouldn't have been all this like media excitement and disappointment at the end of the day, because they do it this way.
Do you know what kind of fixes this a little bit and everybody's going to roll their eyes again? Just say that Destiny 2 is going to be on it. You own them.
Yeah. I mean, that would make you super happy.
No, I already bought
Destiny.
it. No, I already bought it.
But you'd be like, but then I have access to it on another platform.
Haven's new game, like whatever Haven Studio's making,
that's probably going to be free to play.
Okay, but
yeah,
put a damn carrot in there of if you are a PlayStation Essentials subscriber, premium.
But Haven's nowhere to even ready to announce what it is.
But I'm saying like there better be some stuff like 2 years, 3 years down the road, like premium users get 10-day early access. I don't know. Like
I know, but the only problem is now that they have the 3 tiers, that's gonna make things complicated. Like, okay, so I'm an essential, so I get like a T-shirt. Oh, but if I get premium, I get the hat, and then like it'll turn into a whole mess. I will think that maybe this is a good opportunity for Sony to kind of go back to their PS3 days and do some AA games that then they can throw into the service of just like, hey,
the 8 to 10 hour campaign game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the next Astro's Playroom.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like that'll be a perfect, place to throw them, because they were a pack. We'll talk about them being a pack-in game for PS5. That would probably be a good place to throw the next Astro game into this tier day one. And Sony's just going to have to basically, if they want to do anything that will like make like you happy, Dave, is they'll have to make an announcement. It's like, does Media Molecule really need like 7 years to make a game? Or what if they just produce like really tight story
isn't Dreams
games?
On that list?
Yeah. Why isn't Dreams on that list, period? But like, if you look at Media Molecule and you're like, okay, Dreams is fantastic, and Dreams, they've had made games in Dreams. Dave, did you know Media Molecule still makes games inside of Dreams that they release?
Nope.
Exactly.
You know why?
That's a problem.
I don't own Dreams.
Yeah. And you should know about that because they should be talking about it.
Where's all the Little Big Planet games?
No, they had to shut all those servers down because yeah.
There was discussion in our Facebook group. Oh, does this mean we can play Killzone again? No.
Yeah, because they shut those servers down. Yeah, there's a lot of weird caveats that are going to have to be put on there. But could they go to a Media Molecule and it's like, okay, Little Big Planet revolutionized how
make
sharing
Puppeteer
happens.
2.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
Is like, okay, cool. Little Big Planet revolutionized stuff. Dreams revolutionized stuff. Cool. There's not much more we can do. You guys are really good at making like cute stories. Can you make a smaller game? Can you do that? And you look at some of their stuff, like, some of their newer hires, like maybe they make smaller games, Bend Studio did pretty well with Days Gone, but it didn't hit the
back to the $40 or $50 game experience that you sell for $40 or $50, but you also put it in your PlayStation Essentials or Plus.
Yeah,
what the hell it's called?
Essential and Premium.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you didn't think Ben did a good job batting above, what they were used to batting. So, okay, make them a double A
Let
franchise.
them make a sequel to Uncharted Vita.
Yeah, let them mess around with Siphon Filter, like
Yeah.
where the studio started, and let that go on there. You can still have your prestige. Like Naughty Dog will never have a day one release on this service because they're too high tier. And also going to Naughty Dog and being like, rein it back, probably just won't work at this point. But you could go to some of your other studios and go, we need an essential game or a premium game.
Great way to launch Factions too.
Yeah, they could do that. Like
early,
Insomniac,
like 30-day access on Plus.
Insomniac's a machine. Tell them like, hey, make a Rivet game, for premium. Like just a small Miles Morales type experience for Rivet. Throw that on premium. So there's options they can do. I don't know if they're willing to do that for this. So I don't know. It's just me trying to fix the system because they didn't announce enough information for this. So I don't know if you have anything else to add to this.
No, not really.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, it was just, the overall messaging was just disappointing.
And that's just kind of been a habit with how they handle stuff lately, which sucks. Give me like you said like 20 minutes ago when we first started talking, this could have been a state of play. Mm-hmm. Like, even if it's just an info dump state of play, but it could have, there's a better way to convey this that would have made it.
Run a sizzle reel where your content creators are pausing the sizzle reel and going frame by frame, trying to look for a game that they missed.
Yeah, like, they're like, they scrolled through PSP games real quick, like what PSP games are on there. How's that going to work on a control? There's things they could have done.
I just feel like I love them. I love Sony. I love their games. I just feel like they're just like, let's see, I hate to say it like this, but let's see how far we can screw our consumer before they get mad.
Yeah, like, I don't think it's that far, but it's definitely brushing up against that. Yeah. It's just like, let's see how much we can annoy them. Mm-hmm. Like.
Well, I'm sorry, but charging $120 for a year and charging $216 for something that pays you monthly.
But to be fair,
it's kind of smacking the consumer in the face.
They didn't announce enough of this. Maybe that $120 will be justified because it's like, here's a huge catalog of PSP and PS1 games. But instead it's going to probably be just whatever one's around right now. So we'll see.
All right. So that is it for the news. What's delayed? So we have two things that are in here that's delayed. Suicide Squad delayed till spring 2023. I felt like we do this. But I guess now it formally came out from Rocksteady that they are delaying the game.
Yeah.
And then Nintendo likes to put a year on something and then just delay it. So Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 delayed till spring of 2023. Duh.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not surprised by any of these, especially once the Gotham date. I think we even said that last time when the Gotham date came out.
Run away.
Yeah. I did like the way Zelda announced it. They didn't just do the traditional, here's a text on Twitter.
Yeah, I need to watch that, because apparently, I haven't watched whatever that was, but apparently, Link's looking really cool in that. So there's been, again, more speculation about disappointment about the delay, but more speculation about what the game is, because they put out some kind of video format. What is that thing sticking out of the back of Link's neck? Like, I don't even know if that's real or not, but that's the conversation around, oh, Zelda got delayed. Look at this shiny object in this video.
Or just look at the developer, be a little humble during it, and be human during the video, as opposed to just the traditional now. Here's an image. Here's a JPEG on Twitter. Mm-hmm. The game's delayed. We need more time. Mm-hmm. Nintendo knows how to delay something and make the fan base still excited at the end.
Hey, we're sorry. Here's a crumb.
Yeah. Here's
some more crack. Be quiet for another 12 months, please. We're sorry.
Here's a boot of a character. What character is it? Oh, find out spring 2023. And you're just like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I think an effort of time as well, and partially because of lack of stuff from Michael and myself. We're gonna skip what we're playing and watching today. For
Yeah,
the most
Elden
part,
Ring
yeah.
for me and WWE 2K for me.
And I've been playing Learn How to Be a Store Manager. so,
Yeah.
so, which is a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. Not too hard, but more sitting at a desk, which I hate. So, and then we're gonna hit some of these questions real quick. So, questions and comments using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can put them in Discord. You can put them on the Facebook group. You can tweet them at us using that hashtag, and we can find them. Finkelmeyer says, I was finally able to get a PS5 through PS Direct, and I am enjoying all of the PS Plus games I backlogged, like Jaws, Unleashed 2, Maneater. I've also been really enjoying Astro's Playroom. I was thinking about how unusual it is to have a pack-in game in this generation, and how people seem to be dismissive about it. Do you all think that having a pack-in game earns Sony any goodwill, since it's such a rarity to have something to play immediately, or do you all think it didn't really matter?
I think it mattered. It was on my
I've
top
yet to play it.
So here's the thing: it was on my top 10 game of the year list for that year. I think number 7 or 6 or something like that, because it's really good. But I also thought it was kind of cool. Like, I know Dave doesn't like fucking around with shit. Like, you got your PS5, you put the game in that you cared about, and you started to play. But I like exploring a new console, and why I was downloading all of my games, because I had to download all my shit right away, as opposed to you, who were just like, I have one game I want to play right now, and I'm downloading it and I play it. Me, I was like, there's like 4 things I want to play, so let me download it. Astros was super fun to just have a game to mess with that was already on the console. Didn't have to update it or anything like that. I just got to play it immediately. And I think that's a really cool thing that I imagine Sony is now locked into doing for their next console, because that was such a good experience. And again, it's such a high quality thing, especially if you've been a fan of like PlayStation for a while. I think there was so many people that were just into that for the historical aspect of it, of like all the Easter eggs. So I don't think it went unnoticed. I think a lot of people ended up appreciating it. And I didn't really care about the Astro VR game. Like, it was fine. It was fun, but I really cared about this pack-in game because it hit me a little bit differently.
I think it provided 3 things from like your impressions of it and other people's that I've talked to. Is like, 1, it was ready to go. Like, you turned your PlayStation on and it was there. Like, that's huge, because there was something to do while you were either downloading something, or if for some reason they had a PSN network issue, it wasn't affected by it. 2, it was almost like a tutorial for your controller. And 3, anybody could play it. So like, is it on tier of Mario? Like, no, but they're not really bundling Mario games in the consoles anymore directly at launch. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I disagree with you in terms of that they set the standard that they have to do this based on the information we've got today. They'll just have a 90-day trial for Essential in the system, and you'll have all those games you can play. Which
is something they used to do for PS3 when you buy a console. There'd be a trial in there, but they don't do that anymore. I used to be able to stack those too, which was nice. But like, I'm still waiting for a game to blow me away with the controller, like Astro's Playroom did, because every game I've played has had one little feature from Astro, but no game has had all the features Astro had. So I'm still kind of chasing that high. Otherwise, I just look at my DualSense and I'm just like, it's kind of cool.
It's a fancy controller that when I squeeze to shoot something, it gets a little tighter.
Yep, that's pretty much it. But yeah, Astro was amazing.
That for some reason the battery just does not feel like it lasts very long anymore. But
I almost kind of keep mine permanently plugged in, which doesn't help the battery in a long run, but it's still better. My Xbox One, even with the stupid fucking AA batteries, lasts a really long time.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. Even the battery packs too. Like I was just like, but
sometimes
it doesn't have as much in there. So like maybe the haptic stuff is taking up more battery than we thought.
Because man, there's been a couple times where like I didn't touch my Xbox for a week, and I'm like, these batteries are dead. I don't remember the last time I charged this. It turned on.
Yeah, but it's like those Game Boys, man. You find that Game Boy from like 10 years ago, and the batteries still work. You're like, what is?
Yeah. You're like, it didn't explode, so you're good. So yeah, it's kind of crazy how that works.
All right, so that's our show for this week. You can follow us on the social medias. The main account for Twitter is @DigitalDaysPod. Michael's account is at the first MJC. Why do I always mess that up? At the first
so
MJC.
Simple.
Shut up. Mine is
simple.
at Gabe. See, and now I'm messing
By
mine
the way,
up.
yeah, you're messing
Mine
up
is
yours.
at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group, Discord server is all linked in the show notes. Patreon, patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming, where there's multiple tiers you can subscribe to. The main one's $3 Discord access. $5 is 24-hour early access to the podcast. And then $7 is the monthly bonus episode, which we need to record one for March because March is almost over.
Yeah, actually. We'll see if we could do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But other than that, it's felt good after like the whole month of March or February to like kind of like dissect some real news. So this show actually felt good to have a good dialogue, and we'll have some good clip stuff to do. So with that, if you haven't followed us on TikTok or YouTube, we post little 1-minute clips of things. You can watch Michael's Elden Ring clip that everybody's been watching, where he's like, you can picture him like gripping his controller tighter so he doesn't die.
Man, no, the problem is I didn't grip it tighter and enemy fell and I'm like, cool, I beat it. And then the enemy got back up and I was like, oh shit. Oh shit.
So with that in mind, I hope everyone has a great week and that you keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.